Live Fit Podcast, episode 112. Randy Spelling takes you from where you are to where you want to be.
I spent so much time taking myself out of everyday life by anesthetizing myself that I knew that part of my journey and part of how I could help people is becoming a student of how to find balance, how to find purpose and fulfillment and happiness and all those, catchwords that are so juicy. How to find that within my everyday life, within doing chores, within doing laundry, washing dishes, building a business, and it being hard and saying, this is really hard. How do I stay in this and find peace and find my groove while things are really hard?
Welcome to the Live Fit Podcast with Glenn Johnson, your resource for all things that contribute to good health. You will hear expert advice and interviews with leading authorities on fitness, food, fat loss, mindset, and the mind-body connection. You will find show notes, articles, and health programs at livefitpodcast.com.
Yes, it is time once again for the Live Fit Podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Johnson, your guide to better health. Today, I'm really excited to announce Randy Spelling is my guest. If his name sounds a little familiar, that's probably because he is the son of famed TV producer Aaron Spelling, who is responsible for many of the TV shows we grew up watching. Love Boat, Charlie's Angels, Beverly Hills 90210, in which his sister, Tori Spelling, is the co-star. Those are just a sample of some of his shows. He has many more, and I'm sure you've seen some of them. Randy grew up in a very privileged household, as you can imagine. He dabbled in acting and music and drugs and alcohol, as many young, famous people do. However, he was unable to find what he was searching for, his place or his calling. Nothing seemed to really work for him. Yet he was so ensconced in the life, he didn't even realize he couldn't find it. He just knew that he was unfulfilled and searching for something. After hitting rock bottom, maybe a couple times, he went on a soul-searching journey and discovered life coaching. Now, Randy lives up here in Portland, Oregon, fulfilling his calling by helping others fulfill theirs. He can help a person speed their time to success so they don't have to drift around searching, as so many of us do, me included. Let's listen to Randy's story and hear how he went from a wayward, drifting lost soul to a successful life coach helping others become the best people they can possibly be. Good morning, Randy. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you, Glenn?
I am fantastic, and it's a beautiful morning here in Portland, Oregon. I love the mornings here. It's a great time of day to be outside and putter or walk or just sit and read.
I completely agree. I was actually thinking the same thing this morning, as my daughters tend to do. They open the door and sort of welcome the morning, and so it's become a little bit of a ritual.
It's funny. We do that to our kids. It's instead of them getting up early and opening the drapes and waking us up, we're the ones doing it.
Yeah.
So, Randy, before we get into what you're doing now, can you maybe give us a little bit of your backstory so my listeners can know who you are and how you got to be where you are now? Obviously, you have a pretty famous last name, and so you grew up in a famous household, Aaron Spelling being your dad, being the creator of some of my favorite TV shows growing up, and I'm sure a lot of listeners. What was it like for you growing up in that type of environment?
It was a mixed bag. It was incredible in a lot of different ways. I mean, we were privileged, obviously. So, we didn't really want for many things material, and it was fun. We had a chance to do some really wonderful things and meet some amazing people. But for me, it was also a little bit strange because I was an incredibly sensitive child, and as you can imagine, the world in Hollywood and a lot of what the focus was there's the glamour and the glitz and the fame and money. And it's not that my parents were talking about this on a daily basis, but it was just sort of the culture that was around. And, I was incredibly empathic. So I would feel everybody's emotions and I was confused. It's like, wait, people are saying one thing, but, they're feeling another. And gosh, this world is just really weird. Why can't everyone, just be full of love and happiness and whatever? And I think this made me become a happiness addict, a searcher. It's like I craved everything being good and happy. And, of course, the world isn't like that. So, so I grew up and went into the family business because I thought that's where happiness lied. I'd be famous and, that I'd be successful and I'd be happy. Mm-hmm. And got on some TV shows and had a good amount of success, and it didn't do it for me. So I then thought, okay, I need to be a movie actor, because if I did feature films, I'll be more important and I'll feel more important. Mm-hmm. And I did some feature films and I didn't feel any more important. So I thought, oh, darn, okay. I'll go in the music business because then I could be my own boss. I don't have to audition. I don't have to do it anyone else's way, and I can release music to the world and connect with people in that way. And I remember sitting behind my desk with my feet up on the desk and feeling like, oh, okay, now I'm like my dad. I'm a boss. I could be powerful. And it didn't bring any of what I wanted. And so I started filling myself and numbing myself because I couldn't find anything else that would work. And, I just couldn't fit in. I couldn't find my place. And it was painful, Glenn. It was like,
I can imagine.
Like that same feeling of walking into a party. And I'm sure most people have had this at one stage in their life or another, whether it's in high school or whatever, is walking in and everyone seems to be in groups and cliques. And I'm walking in going, mm-hmm. Who do I talk to? Where's my place? How do I fit in here? So this hit critical mass. And I was basically killing myself. I had to be revived by some friends a couple times, and my heart stopped. And
wow.
I was getting into trouble, going to jail, and I was kind of a mess. And right around when my father passed away, I said, I need to live differently. If I'm not meant for more, then I'm done. Take me out. I mean, I would never have killed myself, but I intentionally, but I just said, if I'm here for more, please show me, please help me, because I don't want to live like this. And a few weeks later, everything changed. I cleaned myself up, and then I started to do some of the deep inner work that I really needed, and went on a healing journey. And through that, I discovered that I didn't want to be in the entertainment business in the way that I was in before. Mm-hmm. So I took a break and went to find myself. And through that, I found life coaching, business coaching, and started doing that. And long story short, here I am years and years later, having found my purpose and knowing where I fit in the world. And that feels pretty good.
Wow. That's an amazing story. And I'm really glad to hear that you made it through it too, because it sounds like you said your heart stopped a couple of times, and that right there is pretty serious. So
yeah, thank you. I'm glad I made it too.
Well, so am I. I mean, obviously we wouldn't be having this conversation, and I probably wouldn't have even heard of you. But it's really wonderful, and it kind of shows me that you are meant for more, or meant for different anyways, because you didn't disappear back then.
Yeah. It's funny. I didn't, obviously, as I'm saying this now, 11 years later, it's easy to look back and say, oh, if you would have asked me at the time where I was drinking and drugging and having fun, and, I would have said, oh, this is great, I'm having fun. I wouldn't have said I'm miserable. but it's only when I had some space from it and got healthy. And I'm sure all the people who are listening, this doesn't have to be drinking and drugs. It can be with food. It can be with healthier choices. It could be with getting more rest, just doing things differently than what you're doing. And I just didn't know how at that point. And, I was able to guinea pig myself to say, I can't settle for this anymore. This life that I'm living is not my quote unquote, my happy. And I want to get to a place of happy and fulfilled. So what the heck does that look like? And what do I need to change to be able to get there?
And how did you find yourself? You said you went on a quest to, I forget the term you said exactly, but a quest to heal, right?
Yeah, I said a healing journey.
Yes, a healing journey. So what was this healing journey?
It was extensive, and I wish I could say it was one thing that I did, but as most transformation is it's a culmination of many different things. I had been doing therapy for a while, but it wasn't helping. Then when I removed the distraction, the numbing agent, then I could actually do the deeper therapy that was needed to at least heal some things in my life. And then I just said, what else? What else do I need? I'd always been what I'd consider spiritual. So I started studying psychology, mindset, transpersonal psychology, different forms of spirituality and healing modalities. And one of the biggest things for me was actually owning my own gifts and owning my sensitivity, because I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, but I do end up talking to a lot of women and men who can, is that I was sensitive. And back then, it's a little bit more accepted now, but back then it was like, a sensitive man? What, like, what is that? Someone who likes
sounds like a Nancy boy.
Right? Exactly. Like someone who likes to talk about emotions and feelings and processes things and, isn't just, I'm going to sit on the couch and watch football because that's just what men do, like the sitcom man,
Right.
And I started owning my own gifts, and I was able to do that through coaching and helping other people as I started realizing, wow, I'm highly intuitive and I can use this to my benefit. Before I didn't have the tools to do so, so it kind of became a hindrance or a detriment to my survival.
Absolutely. When you were talking about your previous life, let's put it that way. I grew up near LA, but after I graduated college, I worked down there for a decade in post-production sound, doing ADR and all that stuff. And one of the reasons I'm up here is because I was feeling that vibe that you were feeling, the superficiality, there's a certain kind of evilness in the vanity that people have, and it's a little bit abrasive or poisoning, and you can feel this rough ick around it. And as soon as we had a child, a daughter, in fact, I said, we got to get out of here because I did not want to raise her down there.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I wasn't able to identify any of that living there because, again, like I said, it's like that expression, seeing the forest through the trees.
Yeah.
I was in it. So I wasn't able to see it, and I didn't live anywhere else to know the difference. I still love Los Angeles. I have a lot of friends and family down there, so I love going to visit. But for me, I needed a place that was slower pace and where the emphasis wasn't on industry, because for better or worse, that is so much of what makes up Los Angeles. It is the entertainment capital of the world.
Oh, yeah.
And so every time you drive down the street, there's billboards for movies. There's billboards for, advertising something pretty much in entertainment. Or my favorite is, I forget what intersection it's at, but it's in West West LA,
Mm-hmm.
and there's two billboards on opposite sides of the street of Bijan, who I think is a famous hair designer or makeup person or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and they're two Rolls Royces or two, insanely expensive cars, and that's the billboard, right? These two, $600,000 cars, and my children would look at that and just not even know what to do with that. It's like, what is that? Why are there billboards of that? Whereas there, that's kind of the norm.
Yeah, yeah. And why is that so important? Why is it so important to have things and status, etc.?
Well, I can tell you is that I had it. And that is what was so hard for me, Glenn, is I grew up in this life where so many people, and look, not everyone had to say this to me because I told you I could feel what they were thinking and saying, even if they didn't say anything. And everyone's like, "Oh, you must have the perfect life. This must you're like a prince, right? Everything must be done for you, and it's so perfect." And that wasn't the case. I mean, I'm thankful for my life, and I feel blessed in so many ways. But I'm human,
Sure.
It would have been amazing for me if we could have been all together in one room. Like that's what I craved, is the closeness and the connection, more than great. I could have 6 packs of baseball cards. Ooh, how amazing,
Yeah. So I'd like to go back to your healing journey. I'm fascinated by that. It doesn't sound like you took some trek to India and hung out in a monastery for a month. Was there anything structured, or were you just looking online or reading books, or did you take any classes, or
All the above.
all the above?
I consider myself a city monk,
Okay.
um, because not that it's easy to go off in the mountains and go on that type of,
Vision
sojourn.
quest.
Yeah, but it it's easier in terms of it's out of everyday life. And I spent so much time taking myself out of everyday life by, anesthetizing myself, that I knew that part of my journey and part of how I could help people is becoming a student of how to find balance, how to find purpose and fulfillment and happiness and all those, catchwords that are so juicy. How to find that within my everyday life, within doing chores, within doing laundry, washing dishes, building a business, and it being hard, and saying, this is really hard. How do I stay in this and find peace and find my groove while things are really hard?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, sorry, to answer your initial question, is I took a 2-year coaching program. And then had to take continuing education to continue certifications, and went down that road. And then I started venturing off and doing different forms of healing and taking classes in that, not necessarily to do it as a profession, but because I loved it and was interested in it and was called to do it. And to
Gotcha.
me, that's my favorite way of learning. I don't know about you, but I'm sure you've done a lot of things because it becomes passion. And
Mm-hmm.
even if it seems a little bit different than the exact work you do, I incorporate everything that I've learned into helping people get the results that they're looking for.
And I imagine your history and your dissatisfaction with your life helps you relate to your clients.
Oh, I can say without a doubt, I've walked in your shoes. And the thing that really solidified this type of work for me is the more that I did it, I started seeing, hundreds of people and working with people in all different countries, all different walks of life. And I saw, Glenn, that their human emotional core needs were exactly the same. The patterns that they struggled with were exactly the same, no matter where they were from. And it gave me a really great indication of we all are walking this planet, no matter where we're from, no matter how much money we have or don't have, or if you've been abused or not abused, or no matter what, we all struggle. We all suffer at different times. How do we live better?
And at what point did you discover Portland as a place you wanted to call home?
Uh, my wife, so we met in Los Angeles. And about a year after we met, she said, "So how long do you want to stay here?" And I said, "What do you mean? How long do I want to stay where? On this couch that we're talking on? What do you mean?" I was trying to slip out of it, and she said, "I don't really like Los Angeles. I want to, can we go live somewhere else?" And I thought, well, my friends and family are here. I started my coaching practice, and in that moment, I couldn't see out of that, but it planted a seed. And I kept asking myself, what would it be like to live somewhere else? And even though my head was saying, no, no, and I'm sure you find this in your work with people, the mind says one thing, but the feeling in the body is like, I want this. I want this. That would be fun. That would be exciting. But the mind is like, you can't do that.
It's funny. I had a conversation with a client just last night who is quite a bit overweight, and he loves food, like a love affair with food. And you can hear that when you talk to him. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to hear him talk about food. Yet he's overweight and wants to lose weight, so we were discussing ways he could do that. So I brought up the idea, just a thought of fasting for 24 hours. And we bounced that back and forth, and he said, no, there's no way I could possibly go that long without eating. I can barely go 2 hours without eating. And I'm starting to sweat just thinking about it. But would you believe by the end of that phone call, he said, you know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to start tonight. I'm about to eat dinner. And as soon as I'm done with dinner, that's the last time I eat for 24 hours. And he said, I'm really nervous. I'm scared like crazy, but
yeah,
I'm going to do it.
I love that. It's funny that you bring that up, because I was talking with someone when I was camping last week, and they said that their daughter, as part of one of her outdoor trips for school or whatever, did this optional 2-day fasting. And what she said was the first 24 hours, she went through all of these emotions of, I'm so hungry, I'm going to die. And then she said she got to a point that she moved past it, and the attachment broke away. And she said, you know what? I think I could live forever, which we know that's not true. But the gold that I got in that is that when you break that attachment up, I have to have it. There's a real power and an understanding in that, is that we don't have to have it, and you can love something without needing it in the same way.
Exactly. I love it. Now, this brings me into something that I was thinking about before we started talking. And what kind of philosophy do you use in your coaching practice? What is that anchor point that you stem everything from?
Wow, good question. Well, I worked with a client yesterday, and this is the first thing that comes to mind, is she was really anxious. And, lately I've been working with some one-on-one people who have a tremendous amount of anxiety. And I think we live in a very anxious, stressful time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm seeing that more and more. And one of the things I was led to start as a baseline, we had just started, so I always like to set intentions with my clients on the first session. And I led her through a little meditation visualization, and I said, we are starting from a place of wholeness. So, no matter what, we are kind of taught that in some ways we're broken and need fixing. And that right there is the first lie that we believe, is that we can all move back into wholeness. And, the body is amazing as a tool that it can heal itself, right? You get a cut. You don't have to sit there and work around how is that cut going to heal. The body heals itself. It has its own wisdom. So first and foremost, the baseline, the core anchor point is you are whole, you are whole, you are whole. How can we remember how to get you back to that wholeness?
So your anchor point is their original wholeness.
Yes, because without that, this is just an idea because it came up yesterday with someone who is highly anxious. They don't feel that they're okay. They don't feel that they can relax because they have to be in control of everything and be 10 steps ahead, because somewhere in their life they had to take on the responsibility of problem solving and figuring out how they can be 10 steps ahead so they can manage their life, so they can feel safe. And if you relax into a place of, wait a second, I'm whole, you start to connect in more to a place of, okay, wait, what else is possible here? Instead of just reacting, instead of just feeling anxious, let me be able to breathe. And you mentioned the word freedom.
Yes.
To me once, that you work in this space of freedom. Well, feeling free, to feel free, you have to feel okay. You have to feel that everything is taken care of so you can float. Right? If you're worried about 40 different things, you're not going to be able to float down the river and kick back.
What I said to you was the Live Fit motto is live healthy, fit, and free. And that's essentially what I mean by that, not having the burden of whatever the junk might be, whether it's weight or guilt of eating or anxiety. And not that I work with anxiety specifically, but oftentimes they relate to each other. There's certainly a certain level of crossover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So being free of the burden of whatever that is.
Did you know that LiveFit offers a variety of programs to help you live healthy, fit, and free? It's true. I offer a 10-day sugar slash solution to help you break the cycle of the sugar roller coaster. Plus, there's LiveFit Lean, which is a 28-day weight loss plan. It comes complete with everything you need to get back on track to good health. It provides a menu of every meal, recipes, snacks, a shopping list, and some really simple exercises that you can do anywhere in as little as 2 minutes a day. There's Live Fit Classic, which is my 9-week program that uses the pillars of good health to reshape your misguided efforts and lead you towards intuitive eating and exercising patterns. And finally, Live Fit for Life, which is my health coaching program that will fine-tune your progress and hold you accountable with direct feedback and solutions to guide you to the fit body you want. All these programs can be found at livefitlean.com/programs. The approach you just described, is that how you generally work with people? You have a little meditation to help them find their wholeness? Is that common with everybody, or just specifically anxiety issues?
That was a little bit more specific, but that when you asked that question, that's the first thing that came to mind. Is I can only work with a select number of clients a year, as I'm sure you can too, right? You can't work with anyone. Part of what I do is really holding space for people. So I work sort of on a monthly retainer with them, and they're emailing me in between to get the results that they want, right? And it's a lot of energy. So for me, I need to be able to see them as being able to achieve everything that they want to achieve. And if I can see that and mirror that for them, they can look in the mirror and do that even quicker. And I wasn't taught this. I didn't learn this in coaching class. This is something that I realized through the work that I've done. This is what helps people the most, is starting that way of saying, you have the information. It's here. Even by me asking you a question and you telling a story of whatever comes up and allowing that to happen, that story's happening for a reason. That is where we might need to work to release something in you to quote unquote be free of the burden that's been dragging you down, that's making you eat too much or, worry too much, or at the base of why you don't feel confident enough to do blank.
How do you deal with it when a person has been beat down and failed so many times they can't see this vision of their success that you just told me you can often see?
I work with them to be able to see it. And that takes a little bit of time and consistency, but pointing out their strengths, pointing out what they have done. We have this weird thing in our mind that we tend to remember the negative. We get this negative core imprint before the positive. I don't know why that is. It is what it is. And because of that, people tend to see when they failed, what has hurt, what the pain has been in their lives. And that's okay. But I want to take that a step further and say, okay, show me the pain. But instead of getting stuck there and telling your story over and over and over again of how it's been so bad or what hasn't worked, let's look at what has worked, what you have done, where your strengths lie, and use that to move you through what you need to get through. And of course, I give them tools and different things that they can practice and use that will move the needle for them, that will actually make a difference. And what I find is, I guess I would say it's exactly the same with you, Glenn, is, even in personal training, is once you can move the needle for them and they lose a few pounds or they get stronger and they see, oh, I can't do, 10 box jumps on a box. But once they do it, there's a mental check that happens that says, wait a second, I can do it. Just like the gentleman you described who said, I could never fast for 24 hours. But when he does it, that puts a big deposit in his confident bank account that says, wait a second, maybe I should believe in myself a little bit more because I just showed myself that I can do it.
It's very empowering. And something you said just a little bit ago was, why do we focus on the negative instead of the positive? And that is a defense mechanism, because we're constantly trying to preserve ourselves, our ego and our physical being from danger. And if something bad happens, we want to remember it and be aware of it so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
Now, that's a double-edged sword, as you can plainly see, because that holds a lot of people back too. Oh, they remember that time they messed up and they don't want to do that again. Yet one real clear example that I like to show people when they are focusing on the negative is, do you remember when you were learning to walk? Okay, probably not, but have you ever seen a child try to learn to walk? They fall down a whole lot, and they maybe even cry, but then they get right up and try again, and then fall over and get up and try again, fall over, and eventually they're taking one step, then two, then 5, then 20, and then they're pulling all the stuff out of your cabinets and you wish they couldn't walk anymore. But they didn't give up.
Right. Yep. And I would say that is, when you talked about an anchor point in my work, that's one of the biggest things that I heard. One of my business mentors, Suzanne Evans, I loved what she said. She said once, I'm not here to teach you business. I'm here to teach you how to stop stopping.
Ooh, nice.
And that light bulb went off in my mind, and I said, oh my gosh, that's it. Because how many times do I just stop and give up because it brought up something from the past that, reaffirmed that I wasn't good enough, or I can't do it, or I'm not smart enough, or whatever it is, and just not stopping, to just keep going. And when I work with clients, that's the container that's held is, yeah, you're going to stumble, you're going to fall, and we're going to keep going, and we're going to keep talking about it, and you're going to keep moving forward, and eventually through a series of steps, they're up the mountain.
Nice. Now, for the listeners who don't quite know what a life coach is, and I often get called a life coach, I'm a health coach, and there's a certain amount of overlap in that, but could you very briefly just define life coach as you are?
Oh, I can define life coach. Life coach as I am is a little bit more
Okay,
complicated.
well, let's start with the
Um,
less complicated.
and just to understand that too is because I incorporate so many modalities, it's sort of like intuitive healing, life coaching, excelling, growing business coaching, you know? So in terms of what a life coach does, a life coach is someone who partners with you to help you meet your goals. So, the definition is to take you where you're at, to plan where you want to go, and help you get there, to help you get the result that you want.
Okay,
That's
that's pretty simple. Take you from where you are to where you want to be.
exactly.
What topics do you discuss? So for our listeners, they're sitting there and they're thinking, well, that might work. I'm here and I want to be somewhere else. Is there a topic limitation? Do you specialize in any one particular thing? Weight loss, anxiety, business. I mean, you mentioned business a couple of times, so that's certainly one of them. What's your scope? Let's put it that way.
I would say, in lately, a lot of my clients have been, I help people to develop confidence in their lives, to, identify where their dream is, their dream job, their dream life success, whatever that is, and help them achieve that so they can experience freedom in their finances and in their life.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, the common denominator that is a through line with my work is confidence and self-esteem, because no matter what, there's always a piece there that needs to be massaged. And so whether it's business, just like we said in business, what one of my mentors said, how to stop stopping. That's a confidence piece, right? That's a self-esteem piece. So working with that and I've worked with people in the nutrition area, in their love life, and creating the relationship that they want. But some things need to be adjusted in themselves in order to make that happen.
What type of people do you work with? Are we talking people that are already fairly successful and they have aspirations to be more successful, or are we talking about people that are working just a go nowhere retail job and are pretty miserable but want to be a manager or move on to something totally different? What?
It totally runs the gamut. I've worked with high level executives and CEOs and companies. I do some trainings for different companies. So, yeah, it really just depends. If someone is working in business, they might have a career already, but they might be completely stressed out and miserable and really dislike going to work. So, they might already have some success or be financially doing okay, but they're miserable. They're not happy. Mm-hmm. So I work with them in finding what would make them more happy. Is this job right? Does it still have some of the components that you want? Or, how can we find something that really suits you? I work with entrepreneurs in terms of growing their businesses, how to make more money, make more sales, and find a place of, every entrepreneur wants the freedom lifestyle, right? That is sort of
yeah.
that is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Mm-hmm. But the truth is not most entrepreneurs are not living that freedom lifestyle. They don't work for someone necessarily, but they're working all the time. And it's always like, what's next? How do I get here? How do I push forward? And it's really hard and lonely.
Yeah.
It can be. It can be.
It certainly can be. And they are usually isolationists as well in that they don't mingle at the water cooler. They don't meet other business owners very often unless it's a specific business reason. So, yeah, I get your point.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I've worked with people who are everyday people who may be in between jobs or just, wanting to feel better in their lives. And there's just this low level hum of, I'm here and I'm living, but I'm just not truly happy or fulfilled. Something just feels a little bit gray, like life is missing. It's happening and I'm not immersed in it.
Yeah, and you really should feel it and not feel like something's missing, because that's a horrible feeling.
It is a horrible feeling. And I felt that for so long in my life that I vowed that I'm not going to have that again. So,
And you tried to fill it with ways that didn't work, but of course you didn't know that until you got there.
exactly.
Would life coaching be good for somebody who's maybe 15 years old and they're not having any problems, but they want to set themselves up for the best possible trajectory?
I think life coaching would be good for everyone. Um, Absolutely. The reason why I say that is I don't just work with people who are completely messed up, right?
Right.
A lot of times everyone's like, "Ooh, do you need a therapist? Do you need a life coach? Are things that bad?" No. I mean, every coach, literally everyone in the transformational world that I know has a coach of some form or fashion. And it's this secret ingredient that I didn't know, because I sort of took myself out of this and thought, okay, I've learned a lot. I don't need to learn anymore. And I realized, oh, that's not true. And, there's always more to learn. There's always more to grow. So that's sort of like the secret sauce is to continue going. And that's how people build their businesses. That's how, like that 15-year-old that you just described. They can learn communication skills. They can learn how to express themselves in a healthier way so they can create boundaries. So when they go out into the world, they don't get trampled on, and they can be sturdy.
Yeah, that would have been awesome if I had had a life coach at 15, because I, of course, drifted and was wayward, and it took me until recently to really find my thing. I've had more jobs than anybody I know. I've gathered a lot of information, and all these jobs took me to where I am now. So there definitely was a path, but it was a wandering one for a while. It never went in opposite direction. It is always kind of moving in the same way. But that would have been great to refine things at an earlier time and have less goofs, and learning the hard way is what would be a great thing to avoid if you're younger, to avoid learning the hard way. And
Oh, I would high five you if I was in front of you. So I that would be a way to sum up maybe what you and I both do is give people shortcuts to stop struggling so much and make it so hard.
yes, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And that's what a good coach will do, is to help people see that it doesn't have to be that hard, and you don't have to do it alone. I don't know why this is, but for so long, I thought to myself, I'm just doing this alone. And having a coach is it's like not having to do it alone, having a partner to walk with you who can guide you to say, oh, wait, you know what? There's a huge puddle there. If you want to get wet, you can, but there's a way to go around it. Let me show you how.
And there's a lot of things that a person just doesn't want to discuss with a friend. You sit around, you have beers with a friend, or wine, or whatever, watch sports, or do whatever you do with your friends. And do you necessarily want to talk about, well, I'm really kind of nervous about this meeting I have to present for next week at work, and I don't know if I'm taking this in the right direction, and do I really want this job, and that sort of thing. And a coach can help you work through your thoughts and your hesitations, and maybe you're just lacking confidence, and maybe you don't want to do it. But how do you know?
Yeah, it's completely different. And, that's a misnomer I've heard people say before. Why would I pay someone when I can just talk to my husband or my wife or my friend? I have good relationships with my friends, and it's not the same at all, because we are not trained to talk to each other in the same way. And also there's not a level of neutrality with friends and family, because I, I, I think this is more common to men than women. Maybe you can relate to this, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like men want to fix things.
Oh,
And if
yeah.
there's a problem, it's like, how do I solve it? Let's get it done.
I love fixing things.
Right? I do too. And, in coaching, it's more about let's explore to get to the bottom of what is really happening so you can be clear. And I think that's the piece that gets missed in friends and family talk.
Yeah, I agree. So what else do you do besides the one-on-one coaching? I know that you do some teaching and, group programs and things. What kind of, how do you teach?
With a lot of humor. With a lot of fun. I do have some group programs. So like I said, I can only work with a certain amount of people one-on-one at a time. So I have my private clients, and then I have groups that are, a little bit less expensive, a little bit more approachable, and they can be a group of 4 or 5. It could be a group, depending on the program. And I teach virtually through webinars, and and then I do workshops in person. I will go into a company, or I've gone into families before, couples, and I've done this sounds so funny, but like a Randy immersion program where I will I'll go in their lives for a few days, and it's really, really fun when someone who doesn't really know them well comes in and says, okay, I see what's going on here. Here's what needs to be changed. And I go through it with them. I go through everything with them and teach them tools to use. And then we have follow-ups over the next, handful of weeks to make sure that they're implementing those things.
Nice. That would be really eye-opening for somebody to have a objective mirror pointed at them.
Oh yeah. I mean, I sort of have a spiritual type mentor who would do that for us. She would come and stay with us, and every time she came in, it's like all this stuff would get stirred up because we would see our patterns, and just as a couple or as an individual, all this stuff. And that's the best place, in my opinion, to grow, because someone can go on a retreat for a few days and step out of their lives and feel really good and be held in the energy of that retreat with that teacher, and it's all, cared for and prepared. And then when they go back into their lives, what tends to happen is they feel great for a few days, but then they go right back into their same patterns.
Yes.
So I'm the pattern interrupt that comes in and says, let's look at what is happening in your life right now, and let's make the changes, right? And let's say nutrition, for instance, right? Just because that's a lot of, your world and health coaching and all that. Let's go to the store. Show me what you make. Show me what you buy, and go through with them. Did you look at this label? Did you see these ingredients? Do you know about this? And educate them so they can make better choices.
That is awesome. So if somebody's interested in working with you, how can they get a hold of you?
Through my website, randyspelling.com.
That's pretty easy. Normal spelling, no pun intended. I'm going to have that link and some of the others. I know you have some social media presence out there. In fact, I've seen some of your Insta stories. They're very entertaining. Let's see, you had one last night where you were playing your hand like a trumpet or something, a beatbox.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a week ago. Yeah. I was beatboxing a song, Mr. Sandman, just goofing around, having some fun.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was funny. So I'll have a link to that and some other things on livefitpodcast.com as usual. And you have a couple of free gifts for the listeners?
Yeah. I wanted to give them this this 3-part video series that I did called Changing Worry into Happiness. And again, like I said, I really like to have fun, and these videos are fun. And it's 3 incredibly simple, easy tools that people can use in their lives today to literally change their state, to actually move the needle and make a difference. So I wanted to give that to your listeners so they could have that.
And your little description of that 3-part series brought a smile to my face. I like the line, "Turn your frown upside down in 10 minutes or less."
Yeah, the videos are pretty funny. I've had a good time with people who have responded really positively, and it's a good time.
So I will have links to those videos on livefitpodcast.com as well. And Randy, it has been so fun talking to you. I think I could talk to you for another hour or so. Maybe we'll catch up and get some coffee sometime.
That sounds great, Glenn. I'd love that.
All right. Well, you have a great day. Enjoy the sunshine, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Live Fit Podcast. Please subscribe and share with someone you care about. Read show notes, articles,